On today's episode of the John Campea Show, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has just shattered a Sony all-time box office record. Also, Academy-nominated director Greta Gerwig has apparently signed on to direct at least 2 Narnia movies for Netflix. Vanessa Kirby has reportedly been offered the role of Sue Storm in the upcoming Marvel Fantastic Four. Also, Quentin Tarantino has shot down those rumors about a potential for a Kill Bill 3. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. And it is the 4th of July.
Yay.
And of course, being a Canadian, I do not give my staff the day off. I gave them Canada Day off, as a good employer will do.
Wasn't Canada Day on Sunday?
It was Saturday. No, yes, it was Sunday.
More Canadian.
That's right. Way more. No, where's it Saturday? When was July 1st?
Oh, Jesus.
Was that today's the 4th? No, it was Saturday. Yes.
Oh,
I graciously gave
Thank you.
everybody Saturday off for Canada Day.
Oh, shit.
Anyway, joining me in studios, Ray Ora.
Nah, no comment. Let's go.
We got Jonathan Voico
Yeah, I'm here.
and Chris Carr is here.
Happy birthday, America.
And it's good to have you guys here. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it down into 2 parts. In the first part of the show, we're going to talk about those predetermined topics. And in the last part of the show, we're going to take questions and topics from our YouTube channel members. Why is Ray laughing at me?
Was that the saddest intro in the whole?
I thought it was a great intro.
Well, on that side.
Oh, yeah, a great intro
There's
from
one
side.
over there.
there's sun. There's sun over here.
You're in 4th of July mode, though. I think this is the first time I've ever seen you in shorts.
I am. I'm actually Ray. We got family and friends coming over today. We're gonna have a little pool barbecue.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Festivity. So I'm already in my shorts and my pool hanging out kind of gear.
Come on, Rain. Just kidding. I'm not that much of a dick.
Ray wants nobody to have fireworks tonight.
Wants to eat
That's
those
what
French
he's
fries
saying.
himself.
All right, guys, listen, with everything down, let's get into it. We're going to start off with this. We actually made a video about this on our YouTube channel. And for those of you listening to the podcast, we do have a YouTube channel where we put up some individual videos as well during the day. Just go on YouTube and search for John Campea. But, you know, for those of you who follow me for any period of time, you know that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I think right now is the best movie of the year. Now, I don't know if it'll still be my number 1 movie of the year by the time we get into November and December, but as of right now, I legitimately think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the best picture of the year. And it is having the success that goes along with that. Now, when you hold up and look at the box office results for the first 2 films, right? You got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I think was the 3rd best movie of 2018. Didn't blow up the box office, made $375 million. But that movie was so good, and it got such a following, that even though it's still number 3 on the box office charts, after 5 weeks in theaters, it's still holding the number 3 spot. It's still making money. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has made $607 million. It's crossed that $600 million mark. Which is absolutely remarkable for it. And it denotes 2 important milestones. The first one, of course, is that it crossed the $600 million mark. The second is this, and maybe more importantly, it has become the number 1 box office film of all time for Sony Animation. Now, this was what the top 5 looked like. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse made $375 million. And then a whole bunch of Hotel Transylvania. Hotel Transylvania
3
1.
Hotel Transylvania.
And they made bank.
They made a lot of money.
Dang.
They made over $1 billion, those 3 films. So Hotel Transylvania made 358. Hotel Transylvania 2 made 474. Hotel Transylvania 3 made 528. By the way, that's the type of trajectory you want to see in your film. I'm not a Hotel Transylvania guy, but you got to tip your hat. Like, every single movie made more and more money. And then the number 1 film Sony Animation had ever put out box office wise was the 2011 the Smurfs, making $563 million. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has just shattered that, now into the 600 plus some odd million. And again, it kind of redoubles down the whole point. The whole thing of comic book movie fatigue is a myth. Because you put out movies like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and it like visually almost looks like it's doubling up on what the last one made at the box office. You put out a Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's, getting close to that $850 million mark. All that. You put out good movies. You put out movies that are part of franchises that the audiences are following and enjoy. These movies will still make bank when you put them out. That being said, Chris, you know that I think this is the best movie of the year so far. I love seeing this type of success. Crazy that it's still at number 3, 5 weeks into release. With all this data being thrown at us, what's the thing that stands out to you the most when you look at all this?
Honestly, there's 3 Hotel Transylvanias. I didn't even know.
They all made money.
I learned so much. Yeah, and that is the trajectory you want. That's fantastic. I love seeing this. And it does show that, again, it's not the fatigue of superheroes, it's the fatigue of mediocrity. And if you do something well, people are going to go to theaters and they're going to go see it multiple times. This movie has had such great legs. It's such a good rewatch, too, because you catch so many different things. And when we do exist in a movie timeline where there are so many multiverse movies, where there are so many time travel movies or things that have those kind of plot devices, a movie like this done well with actual consequences is what audiences want. Because that's one of the problems I have with a lot of these multiverse stories is, okay, it's the same sort of situation as when you're reading actual comics. Who's going to be permadead? Who's actually going to have a consequence in this story? Because it all ends up being meaningless if there's no actual stakes, right? If the ramifications of this don't really matter because we can go to a different universe and pick up from there. These movies do such a great job so far, we're 2 out of 3, of showcasing how these comic books can, one, be adapted in such a beautiful way and really treat audiences who know these things backwards and forwards. 2, bring in a whole new audience who don't know the ins and outs and the absolute inner workings of Marvel, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, etc., and make them feel welcome in that fandom and make them feel like they're on board and understanding everything that's going on. And 3, it showcases animation in such a way where you don't go, hey, this is something for kids. This is a medium being utilized to the utmost of its ability. So it fires on all cylinders, and to have audiences gravitate towards it just goes to show if you do something well, people are going to come to it. It's the Field of Dreams kind of phenomena. If you build it and it's good, people are going to come to the theater.
And they have done so in record-breaking numbers, which is, I'm thrilled for this. Again, I don't know where Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to end up on my top 10 of the year. It will be in the top 10 of the year for sure.
Absolutely.
But I mean, and I am looking forward to this becoming just the 4th animated film in history to get nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And I do believe that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I just can't see there being 10 more movies coming out this year that surpass this movie. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3, but I just can't see 10. If I've said this before, I'll say it again. If 10 better movies come out between now and the end of December, I will proclaim 2023 as the best movie year ever. If Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is only your number 11 best film of the year, this will be the greatest year in film ever. Anyway, all right, guys, with that down, let's talk about this, shall we? This one is interesting to me for all the wrong reasons. All right. So Greta Gerwig is a multi-time Oscar nominee. She has 2 Oscar nominations for screenplay, one for Little Women and one for Lady Bird. Lady Bird?
Yes.
Yeah, Lady Bird. And she has a Best Director nomination as well, also for Lady Bird. She's got hardware from other awards presentations on her mantle. She's a great filmmaker, and she's got Barbie coming out, which a lot of people, including me, who was not excited for this, they've got me excited for it. I'm looking forward to Barbie. And if this movie is the hit, because they're saying Barbie could open between $85 and $100 million at the box office, which would be insane. Which makes you think that if Barbie's a big commercial success, following on the heels of her critical and award success, you'd figure Greta Gerwig's going to be in a position where she could probably write her own ticket to a degree. Why on earth would she do Narnia movies? But that is the news story. We go over and check it out. IndieWire right now, they're saying Greta Gerwig, it's been confirmed, is to direct at least 2 Narnia movies for Netflix. The report says this: Greta Gerwig will be helming the new Chronicles of Narnia adaptations for Netflix. The Barbie writer-director officially has at least a two-picture deal for bringing the beloved novels to life again, this time at the streamer on Netflix. 4 years after Netflix announced a multi-year partnership with the C.S. Lewis Company, the New Yorker confirmed rumors that had circulated for some months that the three-time Oscar nominee Gerwig will be attached to direct the Narnia films. Okay. Now, to me, this makes no sense. But it's not because I don't like the Narnia books. I do. I'm a particular huge fan of C.S. Lewis. You guys know I was a theology student. I loved C.S. Lewis. Actually, one of my favorite books when I was younger was a book by C.S. Lewis called The Screwtape Letters. And unless you grew up in church circles, you're probably not familiar with it. But I love the writings of C.S. Lewis. And I love the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the other books, to be honest with you, but The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I absolutely loved. And I really liked that first Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe movie where I think it was Liam Neeson did the voice of Aslan,
Yep.
right? I really liked that movie. But here's the thing. Does anybody care about the idea of new Narnia movies right now? I mean, if we go over and look at the trajectory of these things. So the first Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the one with Liam Neeson as Aslan, it made $745 million. Okay, you're going to make another one. Well, they did, and that dropped significantly. Prince Caspian came out to 419, and it wasn't great. And then they put out another one thinking it could rebound. They put out Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and that fell only marginally, but still went down even more. Remember we were just talking about Hotel Transylvania? Hotel Transylvania was doing this.
Yeah.
The Narnia films were doing this. I just don't think, and I say this as a fan of the Narnia stories, as a fan, I say, I don't see anybody interested in this. So you got Greta Gerwig, three-time Oscar nominee, about to have this big hit with Barbie, rolling high in the world. Chris, I do not understand for the life of me. You can take that graphic down now, Jonathan. I do not understand for the life of me why, if you're Greta Gerwig and you're in the position she's about to be in, why you would A, make your next projects for Netflix, and B, make Netflix versions of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I don't, and again, I say this as a fan of her. I say this as a fan of Narnia. I don't understand her reasoning or her logic here, other than they literally just backed up a dump truck full of Spanish gold.
That's what it feels like.
I don't get it. What's your take on it?
It doesn't feel like an upward trajectory move. It doesn't even feel like a lateral move. It feels like
It
two
feels
steps
like a
back.
punishment move. It's like, oh, your
Honestly.
last movie bombed. Go do Narnia on Netflix.
And I just have to imagine they're letting her do whatever she wants here and exploring that. Because there's also a lot of things within the Chronicles of Narnia that I don't feel line up with the kind of Greta Gerwig ideology. She tells so many stories from a feminist perspective.
Right.
And you do have Susan in the books who doesn't get to be a friend of Narnia anymore, right? For liking nylons and parties. And the allegory there is she no longer gets to go into heaven, which of course then kind of spawned Pullman writing his Dark Materials and kind of taking this more atheist look at that anthropomorphized animal world and everything. So it's interesting to me to have somebody like Greta Gerwig tackle this kind of material too, because it is steeped in so many kind of Christian values and things. Not to say there's anything right or wrong about that either. It's just, it doesn't seem like something that she would be drawn to.
It's a messianic allegory story. I mean,
Yes.
that's really what Narnia is. Yeah.
Absolutely. What she does with that could be incredibly interesting. And, you know, the last movies of this, they first started in 2005. So I can absolutely understand rebooting this material. It's almost 20 years later. I just don't know why she's drawn to it. And I'm interested to learn more about that because, yeah, those movies really fizzled out. There's obviously still a very large audience for them consuming them as books. I just don't know if that's the first name I would pair up with this movie and with this streaming service. It feels a bit odd.
Ray, I'm just curious. I call you on the phone tomorrow night. Say, hey, we're going to go watch The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe tonight. We're going to go see it. Now, obviously, this is going to go to Netflix. I'm just saying, if I call you, say, hey, we're going to go out and watch this movie tonight. You want to come?
Midnight screening.
Midnight screening of
Don't
it.
you dare add that to my.
But are you at all interested in another Narnia movie?
I didn't read the books, but I tell you who did. Olive read the books. She loved those books.
By the way, for those of you who don't know, Olive is my sister-in-law, Ray's sister and sister,
she
Olive.
bought that 3-pack in every way possible. If the 3-pack she had got old, she would buy a brand new set just to have on the shelf.
And there were many Narnia books. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
It was just those 3.
but just those three that she...
Yeah, she...
I mean, your
read 'em
mom
over
would
and over.
probably want to come with us if we were going to go see a new Narnia movie tomorrow
Well,
night.
if like Henry Cavill was probably in it, probably with the
Henry Cavill is the new Aslan, and he's not even a lion anymore. It's just Henry Cavill with really long red hair.
No, because I remember when Mom walked in, we were watching Man of Steel. That part where he like saved the boat, where he was just shirtless, and the
and
that's
came
the
out of
first
the
time I
water.
heard my mom go, "Oh,"
Oh,
I was like, "Don't ever
oh.
in this next to me again." But yeah, but no, I have no interest. I'm sorry. There's a lion in it. I like lions.
Yeah, lions are
Aslan's
great.
cool.
Is it
Aslan's
real cool,
great.
dude?
He's cool. He's Jesus.
Oh,
He's Jesus in this. There's 7 books, which also makes sense from a theological standpoint.
They've never done The Magician's Nephew.
No.
No,
And
they
that was
didn't.
the first one, and I thought that was the trippiest one because it showed like creation in this kind of nebulous kind of way, and like
Yeah.
it wasn't the same children because these were older. This took place before. They've never done The Magician's Nephew.
Which maybe that's what Greta's drawn to then
Maybe.
too, is doing that and kind of looking at a creation story. That could be interesting.
but it's Netflix.
Again, it's Narnia and it's Netflix, and I just don't get why somebody like Greta Gerwig would want to go in that direction. But she must have some inspiration and a lot of Spanish gold.
And Netflix is going for more prestige. We've seen that in the last few years too.
Yep.
They do want to get those Academy Award winning directors. They want those nominations. Maybe
I
they're going
can
to
see
do a
why
lot.
Netflix wants to do it.
But yeah, her.
I just see why Greta's doing it.
How is she enticed?
She can literally, once Barbie is a hit, and I'm not saying Barbie's going to make $1 billion, but once Barbie is a hit, she can write her own ticket. And I just don't understand this direction. Anyway, guys, maybe you guys do. And maybe you guys see some rationale behind it and why they'd go that way. All right. That down. Let's talk about this, shall we? We made a little video about this one earlier today as well. But, you know, Fantastic Four is coming and everybody is talking, especially now that they've already announced Superman and who our new Superman is. Now everybody's focused on who's going to be the new Fantastic Four. There's been some reports lately that some people are saying Adam Driver was the front runner. Now reports saying, oh, he's out of the running now because he priced himself out. And whether that was ever true, we'll never know. But then you start looking at Sue Storm. And Sue Storm, you've had several big names. You've had Vanessa Kirby. You've had Jodie Comer, Margot Robbie. Those have been the 3 primary names going on out there. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we did this story where while promoting her new movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Vanessa Kirby was asked on the red carpet about rumors that she was going to play Sue Storm. And she didn't exactly say she was, but she didn't give your typical answer that a lot of these actors and actresses will give with, oh, I don't know about anything like that. I've not heard anything, or, you know, I would love to hear from my agents or something like that. She just said it would be an honor. That's all she said. To which Pom Klementieff, who happens to play Mantis in the MCU, who was also in Mission Impossible with her, was standing beside her and said, wouldn't that be awesome? We're going to get to act together again and all that kind of stuff. And that got a lot of people talking. Well, there's a report going around now this morning that, and again, this was not coming from Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, but a report going around this morning that Vanessa Kirby has been offered the role of Sue Storm. And if we have any images of Vanessa Kirby, Jonathan, let's bring that for people who don't know her, because Vanessa Kirby is not a household name.
No.
Right? Not a lot of people were known. However,
Incredible actress.
she is an Oscar nominee. In 2020, she did this movie called Pieces of a Woman that she did with Shia LaBeouf about a woman dealing with grief and loss after losing a child. And she got Best Lead Actress nomination at the Academy Awards. She was also got an Emmy Award nomination for playing Princess Margaret in The Crown. So she is a dynamite
She won BAFTA
powerhouse
for that one, too.
actress. She's incredible. And she kind of looks like she could be Sue Storm. Now, when we made our little video earlier today on the YouTube channel, I mentioned that I'm perfectly excited if they do announce that she's going to be Sue Storm. I'll love it. I still think Jodie Comer is going to be our Sue Storm. Jodie Comer, who, of course, tore up the world in Killing Eve, and then was amazing opposite Ryan Reynolds in Free Guy. And by the way, even though I didn't love the movie, she was awesome in The Last Duel with Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Ben Affleck, all that kind of stuff. I didn't love the movie, but I loved her in it. I still think she's going to be the one. Now, I'm going to say this. In between the time when we put up that short video today talking about Vanessa Kirby and when we started recording this podcast, I got a text message from a friend of mine who is a Hollywood producer. Not connected with the MCU, though. Let me just say this. This friend of mine who is a Hollywood producer, not connected to the MCU, at least not at the moment. And he just texted me, the Vanessa Kirby thing is true. Now, whether he's right or not, maybe he just heard it from 4 other people or not, whatever. I just feel like I should at least throw that out there. That even though I said earlier, I still believe it's going to be Jodie Comer, I do have a friend of mine text me saying the Vanessa Kirby thing is true, that she's been offered the role. Anyway, Chris, understanding that we have no confirmation that this is true, theoretically, if Vanessa Kirby's name is thrown out there as Sue Storm, how would you feel about her as Sue Storm? Or did you have somebody else in mind that you liked for the role?
I love the idea of her as Sue Storm. I think this is great. This goes back to early days of Marvel when people weren't household names.
Right.
And look, if we're going to look at some of the other criticisms that Marvel has gotten, right? The stars aren't the star. The superhero is the star. Then why do we keep getting these A-listers to be in these movies? Why do we keep getting big names? If that's true, why do you need that? And Marvel originally did that. Look at Thor, taking that gamble on, there's a news article of unknowns, Chris Hemsworth, and, going into this. And now you can't not know who Chris Hemsworth is, right? She's
to be fair, the MCU did launch with a Robert Downey Jr.
Yes, but who was on a downswing.
Yeah.
Who hadn't, we all thought, a lot of people thought at least, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was going to be his resurgence. And that movie did not do well.
Even though it was great.
It's such a good movie. I
Love
watch
that
it
movie.
every Christmas. I love it so much. Oh my gosh, Val Kilmer in that movie too. Mwah, chef's kiss. But Robert Downey Jr. didn't have the same notoriety he
Not
did
the time.
until that movie, right? Chris Evans was not the Chris Evans we all know now. It was that, wasn't that Johnny Storm and the Not Another Teen Movie kid? Like what?
No.
All these other people weren't the people we know them as now. And Vanessa Kirby, while she has been in big blockbuster franchises, I mean, she's part of the Mission Impossible movies now as the White Widow. She was in Hobbs and Shaw.
That's right.
She's in
That's why she was Shaw's sister.
She is in the great film About Time in a smaller role. She's wonderful, and she's an acclaimed stage actress too. And I really like when Marvel gets these stage actors as well. You can see some of her work that she's done with the National Theater. She did a run back in, I believe, 2016 of A Streetcar Named Desire, so she can do American accents. And she did that with Ben Foster. And
wow.
got heaps of praise in that. I mean, Vanity Fair wrote up a great article on them. So to have an actress with that kind of acumen, that kind of acting ability be in here and maybe not have the same kind of household name that some of the other people in the conversation have, I think is a really fun move. I miss that. I really like Marvel taking up-and-comers. I say up-and-comers because, again, she's in big franchises, but taking people who you might not expect and popping them in here. I think it's a great move.
All right, guys, with that down, we're still going to take questions from our YouTube channel members. Plus, we're going to talk about Quentin Tarantino shooting down some Kill Bill 3 rumors. But before we do, we're going to take a second to thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Mint Mobile and HelloFresh. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And HelloFresh gets that you want options when it comes to what you make for dinner, not just the same old thing all the time. And that's why they offer 40 recipes to choose from every single week. So you'll never get bored and can always find something new to try and love. And when you need dinner fast, don't just call for delivery. Think of HelloFresh. Their fast and fresh recipes are ready in just 15 minutes or less. Plus, HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout. Ann and I are both working professionals, and so whenever it comes to dinner time, we're always struggling with whether we should get takeout. But with HelloFresh, it makes preparing dinner together fun, easy, delicious, and nutritious. We absolutely can't live without it. So guys, right now, go to HelloFresh.com/Campea50, that's Campea50, and use the promo code Campea50 for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Campea50 for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at HelloFresh and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into this, shall we? You know, Quentin Tarantino is going to go down in history as one of the great directors that the art form has ever had. He has such a unique vision, such a unique voice. My personal one criticism about Tarantino, despite the fact that I absolutely love him, is the fact that maybe a lot of his films feel a little bit too the same. Like he's got that, you can watch 5 minutes of a Quentin Tarantino movie and you'll know it's a Quentin Tarantino movie. You know, it's just, it's that kind of thing. But his movies have been so good. I mean, I can only think of one movie of his. Out of all of his 9 movies, there's only one I don't like. Like I straight up just don't like. And that was
Hateful.
Death Proof.
Oh,
Death Proof.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not like Death Proof.
Because the one that was paired with was good though, which he didn't technically direct.
Planet Terror.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was directed by Robert Rodriguez,
right?
Who did that one. I like Planet Terror. I did not like Death Proof. And I didn't mind The Hateful Eight.
It's fine.
I like Hateful Eight. It's fine. It's not one of the better Quentin Tarantino movies.
It plays like a live play, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not really a movie, but yeah.
But I mean, then you're talking about Inglourious Bastards, Reservoir Dogs, Django, Jackie Brown, like on and on and on. The guy's great. Well, he claims that he's only doing one more movie. 10 and then he's done. Which, by the way, I believe he is telling the truth because that's what he believes. But I don't believe for 1 second we're not going to get an 11th, movie out of Quentin Tarantino at some point. That being said, a lot of people have talked over the years, and especially in the last little while, considering he said, I'm only going to do one more movie and that's it. A lot of people believed he was going to go back and do a Kill Bill Volume 3. That there's still a lot of open storylines that you could take and pick up later on, and there'll be a nostalgia factor to it. It could be big and successful and all this kind of stuff. And, people really thought that was going to be his next one. Even when he announced that he was going to do this movie called The Film Critic or The Movie Critic, whatever it's going to be called. A lot of people still thought it was going to be Kill Bill Volume 3. Well, Quentin Tarantino has now shot those rumors down. This comes to us from Deadline, who said many Tarantino fans had hoped that the filmmaker would revisit the Kill Bill universe and cast Uma Thurman's daughter, Maya Hawke, who is in Stranger Things right now, in the potential sequel. However, in a new interview, the director says a third installment of the martial arts film is not happening. I don't see that. My last film is about a film critic, a male critic, and he plays in the 1970s. He said in an interview with De Morgan, I don't know what that is, striking down speculation about Thurman and Hawke teaming up in a Kill Bill follow-up. Now, it should kind of be noted here that while I do not believe this 10th film of his is going to be his last, I do believe he will do more. Because, listen, Quentin Tarantino's a creative force of nature. He can say, I'm done, but at some point, he's going to be sitting in an Arby's And while eating some kind of roast beef sandwich, an idea is going to hit him.
Questioning his life.
Yeah, yeah, but why?
Come
What
on, man.
choice
Arby's.
led me to Arby's?
They
You know
have
what?
meats.
They do have the meats, but do
I
you
like
want them?
Arby's. Arby's, I only eat
the
it about
meats.
once every 2 years, granted, but I enjoy Arby's.
Okay.
Anyway, I can feel you judging me from across the room. I can feel the judgment
I'm
crushing
sorry.
down on my shoulders.
Like what you like. That's great.
So he's going to be sitting there and an idea is going to hit him. And he's going to think about it. And he's going to pull a pen out and write down a thought on a napkin. And then it's going to itch at him and itch at him. Then he's going to write out a page. Then he's going to write out a scene. And before you know it, 5 years from now, he's written his 11th movie. And because he's just a creative force of nature. But I will say this, even if he does do more movies, I do not think Kill Bill 3 will be in the cards. Because one of the things a lot of people say was, like, he's already done 2, you got to complete the trilogy. But you got to remember, he never planned for Kill Bill to be 2 films. A lot of people forget Kill Bill. When Quentin Tarantino was making that movie, he made it as 1 movie that ended up being close to 4 hours long. And the Weinstein Company said, we're not putting out a 4-hour movie. Turns out that was actually a good call because they got to double up their box office. So it's not like Quentin Tarantino feels some urge to finish a trilogy because he never saw it as a trilogy. The second thing you got to remember is this. As much as everybody knows the name Kill Bill, not many people went to go see it in movie theaters. I think all total, I think the 2 Kill Bill films combined, Ray, you want to take a guess?
Yeah.
Kill Bill 1 and 2 combined, how much do you think it made?
300,000.
A whole Black
300
Adam.
million.
What about you, Chris?
A whole Black Adam.
A whole black, almost 400 million.
Yeah.
It's in between.
Okay.
About $330 million combined.
Dang.
The first Kill Bill made about 380. The second Kill Bill, or made about 180. The second Kill Bill made about 150. Which, by today's standards, would be considered flops. Not that they were flops at the time. They weren't. But I'm just saying, so it's not as if that these were $500 million movies that are just begging to have another one. And Tarantino's going to feel this urge to complete the trilogy because it was never meant to be a 2-parter in the first place. I believe every word that Tarantino says when he says it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. And I'm okay with that. Look, if they announce they're going to do more, have Vivica A. Fox play her own daughter 50 years down the line or something like that, go out for revenge, and maybe some idea with Maya Rudolph would be interesting too. I'd be okay with it. I'd want to watch it.
Well, she had a daughter in the movie.
Yeah.
Bring back that young lady.
That's what I'm saying. Vivica
Yeah.
A. Fox can play her own daughter many years later, like 45 years later. But
Her daughter'd be the right age too.
I just don't see it ever happening. Chris, you heard about this. Like, have you thought there might be a chance that we could see a Kill Bill 3? Would you be down for it?
really
Do you think
did.
maybe Tarantino will do it someday? What do you think?
I would be down for it, and I thought we would get it because, again, the little girl who we see in there of the "come find me one day," she'd be the right age. Let's go do that. Let's have her in here. And I think it would make a lot of sense. And there were still things on the cutting room floor that Tarantino didn't get to put into the movie that he really wanted to mess around with. But he is a dude who is really set in his ways. So I'm kind of torn on this. If he says he's not going to do another one, I could see him sticking to it. Some things here that could happen. I don't know if it's feasible. I don't know if he'd let go of it, of the creative control to have somebody else take on the Kill Bill story and maybe executive produce everything. But I don't know if he'd walk away from it, and let somebody else take the reins. Follow me on this journey. I feel like it's a lot like Miyazaki. Back in 2013, The Wind Rises seemed like it was going to be Miyazaki's last film.
Yeah, they made a big deal out of that.
10 years later, we're getting actually Miyazaki's final film. But could this just be Cher farewell tours? In Miyazaki's case, he's much older, and this is being touted as his last film. But he had that creative fuel and fire going that made him say, nope, I got another one in me. And to your point, I don't know if Tarantino is going to be able to stop writing. He could stop directing, but I feel like there is a burning passion in him to just put pen to paper.
Yeah, he said that he's fascinated to write for television.
Yes.
And, he's got a book and all kind. But he's a director, He's
an auteur.
Yeah. And how many times did Steven Soderbergh announce his retirement? I think several times Steven Soderbergh said, I'm going to stop directing after this. But, he still directs.
Yeah.
So, I like your idea, though, that, technically speaking, if Tarantino just said, okay, I'll give my blessing to a another Kill Bill, but I'll just executive produce and we'll bring on, I don't know,
Maybe
maybe his
still
buddy
write it.
Eli Roth.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm going to get
Somebody
my
he
buddy Eli
trusts.
Roth to come in and direct or something like that. I could see maybe that happening.
It's feasible, but he obviously seems to enjoy controlling his own creative works.
Yes.
So that's the kind of pull there.
All right, guys. With that all down, let's now spend the rest of our time on this 4th of July taking questions from our YouTube channel members. Again, if you're listening to our podcast, we do have a YouTube channel, and we have a wonderful group of supporters over there known as YouTube channel members. And we ask them every day to send in some topics and questions. And Chris, what have we got from them today?
From Red One Real Talk, The Idol may go down as the worst HBO series of all time. In a world as divided as ever, I've rarely seen our country unite over a shared opinion that this show is abysmal. I wonder what the creators were thinking as they were putting this together. Oh, that they were so edgy and cool.
Well, listen, look, far be it from me to be anything but completely supportive of a fellow good Canadian kid. But The Weeknd is not a filmmaker. And The Weeknd thought, I'm famous, I can make a show. No, you can't. I had a day the other week where I guess I didn't feel good about myself and maybe I hated myself a little bit. So I thought I'll watch the first episode of The Idol. It's so bad. And you know what sucks about it? There are so many people I love in that show. We just talking about Eli Roth. Eli Roth popping up as the studio guy or what was it? Live Nation or so. He's like the head of Live Nation or something like that. You have
Dan Levy.
Dan Levy pops up in it, which was super exciting. I love so many people in it, and not 1 second did any of it feel authentic to me. But John, The Weeknd said he absolutely created this based on his real experiences. That's cool that you can base it on that, but there's one thing between basing it on that and then actually making it work on a screen. I only watched the first episode. It's unwatchable. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and maybe somebody will come along to me and say, John, you got to give the episodes 2 through 5. No, I don't. No, I watched the first episode. I get what you're selling, and it doesn't work for me.
No one's done that for me. I stopped after the pilot, right? I watched that first episode and went, nope. I see what Rolling Stone was talking about in their review, and yeah, I agree with them. Anyone I've talked to who has continued on has said, oh, it's only gotten worse.
Yeah.
Life's too short. If you enjoy it, good for you, but ugh.
And I get HBO picking. Look, HBO is normally the gold standard for original television broadcast. They're the best. But I could see it. You have this global mega superstar in The Weeknd. You've got all these huge names. The subject matter is interesting. You give it a go, and it's edgy. I mean, it is edgy. It's edgy, but there's good edgy and there's stupid edgy. And
They HBO'd too hard.
They HBO'd too hard. That's a great way to put it. That's exactly what they did. All right, what's next?
From Joestar Gaming, happy 4th of July. Every 4th of July, I always watch Jaws and the first Captain America.
That's an awesome tradition.
It's got doll's eyes.
I think it was just a few years ago. My wife Ann had never seen Jaws. And she watched it for the first time, I believe, on a 4th of July weekend. So that was a very good experience for her
nice.
watching that. Yes, that's a good tradition, man. All right, what's next?
From Muda Sharid, what happens to messages sent on your Stream Elements site? Do you get that donation at least? Just realized my questions haven't shown up lately. Oh.
It could be that you're not actually sending them through. I've had that happen a few times. That a few people have reached out to me, and I've walked through the steps with them, and like, oh, no, you're not doing that right. So they don't actually get sent through. But yeah, anytime you actually send a question through on the Stream Elements tip page, it goes into a log, and that log generates a report for us that we can then pull the questions from. But sometimes people think they're sending them in and they're really not, but just double check on that. All right, what's next?
From Imperial Executioner, hey crew, happy 4th. Per the Hollywood Reporter, Greta Gerwig is set to direct a Chronicles of Narnia movie for Netflix. Over under 30% chance that Netflix puts it in theaters. Also over under 100% chance Netflix doesn't market it well enough.
This is different from the Glass Onion Knives Out scenario. I don't think there's a hunger for this. That's the thing. Like, people wanted to watch the next Knives Out. I don't know personally anybody who's drooling at the mouth to go and see another Narnia movie. So I'm going to, not impossible, but I'm going to go under 30. I mean, look, unless this movie turns out to be gangbusters great and they love it and they want it to get real awards consideration, then sure, there's a chance, but I'll go under 30 is a little high for me. So I'll go under 30 on that.
I would go over just because of the new Academy rules if they want to get some, maybe writing, adaptation, special effects noms, that sort of thing.
If they think it's good enough to do that. All right, what's next?
From Alan, happy 4th of July. I saw Indy 5 today and overall I liked it. This week, Harrison Ford is a guest on the podcast Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, which should be a lot of fun.
I can't imagine Harrison Ford doing a podcast.
Hey, Conan.
That's generally the feeling of Indiana Jones 5. Generally speaking, people generally like it. It's closing in on 70% of a critic rating. It's got an 88% audience rating.
That's
Again,
great.
that's not saying everybody loved it, but it's saying they at least liked it. And I would put myself in that category. It's good enough for me to be the 4th best Indiana Jones film. Like after Last Crusade, Raiders, Temple of Doom, then I would have Dial of Destiny, and then trailing up at the rear would be Crystal Monkey. And I will always say it should be called Crystal Monkey. So that's generally the feeling. It's likable. It's a likable movie. It's not great. It's doesn't deserve the Indiana Jones name, but it was certainly better than Crystal Skull, and the positives outweighed the negatives. So I think that's generally the consensus among most people at any rate. All right, what's next?
From Big Cookie, just for the record, Ted Lasso is the two-time reigning Best Comedy winner. Abbott has never won. The last cable show to win was Modern Family in 2013, Bring on the Filthy.
I don't believe that's true.
That's not correct.
That's not correct. That is not correct at all. Abbott Elementary won the last Emmy for Best Comedy. Unless we're experiencing the Mandela effect at some rate.
I think the last time he watched the Emmys was 2013, so he's a little behind.
Was it a little bit behind on that? But I'm pretty much positive Abbott Elementary won Best Comedy at the last.
So it won a Golden Globe.
Or maybe we're thinking of the Golden Globes.
Maybe.
Golden Globe's the one that really counts. So.
And it won acting awards at the Emmys here.
It's the Globals.
But best overall show, huh?
Oh, a second.
It's the Globals, baby.
Was it the Globes instead of
Let
the
me
Emmys?
see here. Well, actually, my quick Google search said the 2022 Emmy Awards that Ted Lasso won Best Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I? I remember
it won actor awards.
But I remember the producers and the cast getting up to go up and accept an award. Maybe it was the Golden Globes. I was
Should have been the
thinking.
Golden Globes because it won a Golden Globe, Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Ensemble, Critics' Choice Award for Best Comedy, Peabody Award.
So it won all the awards except for Emmy.
Yeah, that might have been the big thing that year.
My
Where we're
mistake there, friend.
All right. Well, see, a
You were
little bit of
correct. Thank
Mandela
you.
effect going on there. This is why we love hearing from our viewers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's next?
From a min, DC at Comic-Con next year can be super huge with a first look trailer of Superman and big casting announcements for Batman and others. I think it's a smart move for them not to go this year. The writer's strike is a blessing in disguise, in my opinion.
I don't think so, because anything they did at Comic-Con this year would not replace anything that they could do next year. Listen, I guarantee you, by next Comic-Con, we're already going to know who their Batman is. That's not going to be something they announce, right? We're going to know who the new Batman is. They wouldn't have footage to show of Superman this year anyway. And if they just went to Comic-Con this year, granted, barring a writer strike and barring an actor strike, and they were to bring out David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan and bring out some people and just James Gunn walking through in some more detail about their plans, that could have all been huge and great, and it would not have replaced or taken away anything from Comic-Con next year. So no, none of this is a blessing in disguise. It's just not. Now they're going to have these two remaining DC films, these DCEU films, the last two floundering. They're not going to get a big push from a Comic-Con appearance. They're not going to be able to plant seeds of some early buzz and excitement about the upcoming DCEU. Yes, they're going to have next year. They're going to be able to do all the things that they're going to do next year that they were always going to be able to do next year. So it's not like there's anything, again, if it was, we're either going to announce Batman this year or next year, that's fine. There is zero possibility that we're going to get to July of 2024 and not know who Batman is. There's zero chance of that happening. So yeah, we'll see. It's not a blessing in disguise. It's an unfortunate thing, but it is an unfortunate thing nonetheless. But next year will be bonkers. Next year will be bonkers, but it still would have been bonkers even if they did one this year. So, all right, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth, I've been binging the Ms. Maisel show, and my gosh, as Susie would say, it's effing awesome. The season 4 finale scene, alone with Lenny Bruce and Midge, is Emmy worthy.
The show is incredible. I remember when the first season came out, it dropped when Ann and I were visiting my family up in Canada. And it was a lazy winter morning. We were laying around, and Ann was like, you got to come in and watch this show with me. I'm like, all right, because she was laying in bed. And she watched the first episode of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She goes, we're going to rewatch this. I'm like, all right. And we got hooked. And we watched like 5 episodes that day, laying in bed until getting up to dinner time. The show is incredible. She is remarkable. If you have not watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you should go back and watch it. It's incredible. And it gives you some great insight as to why Brosnahan is a great choice to play Lois Lane. You'll be thrilled. All right, what's next?
From Amin, can someone explain to me how 2 massive sci-fi films, Dune Part 1 and Part 2 combined, have a lower budget than Dial of Destiny at $300 million? Hollywood really has a big issue with budgets, and they wonder why so many films don't break even.
I've been saying for years that not all films, but in general, there is a spending problem with studios making their movies. Not only for their own detriment in the fact that, it makes it harder and harder for a film to break even. Like, here's the thing. Fast X is approaching $700 million. And it's not profitable. That's insane. That's completely insane. There should not be a reality where your film can hit $700 million at the box office and not yet be profitable. That's stupid. That's really, really dumb. But the main problem is not that it affects the studio's bottom line, is that their spending affects you and me as film fans. Because as their spending spirals out of control in making these movies, and again, Fast X cost $340 million to make, one of the most expensive films in the history of cinema. Indiana Jones 5 cost $295 million to make, one of the most expensive films in the history of cinema. The problem for us is this. When they make the movies with out of control spending like that, that means they need to make more money. And the primary way they get more money is by getting it from the theaters. And the way the theaters are then forced to compensate for the fact that the studios take a bigger and bigger cut of the box office dollar is that theaters then have to raise prices. So, like, I've had people say to me, well, John, why do you care what the studio spends on the movies? It's their money. No. It's our money. Because that's where they're getting it from. They're getting it from you and they're getting it from me. When you go to the Cineplex and you're wondering, why do I have to spend $16 for this movie ticket? Oh, now you're where you said it was no problem that they're spending all this money on these movies, because that's where they get their money from. And so it's a systemic problem. It's not an isolated issue. It's a systemic problem that is having a detrimental effect on the entire movie-going industry, from the top of the people who produce the movies down to the bottom of those of us who buy tickets to go to watch them. And yes, they have to get this spending under control. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was made for $100 million. The 4 John Wick films were made combined for less than what it cost to make Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. They made 4 movies for less than what they spent on Dial of Destiny. It has to be reeled in. It just has to be. All right, we got time for 2 more. What's next?
From the Movie Maven, hey, John and crew. I sent in a chat yesterday and even saw it on the video, but it got skipped, I guess. I was wondering, who are you taking in the main and co-main events at the UFC event this weekend? I've got Yair and Pantoja. Are those the correct names? I'm not sure how to say that.
Fight.
Yeah.
But could see the champs retaining their belts. I'm not familiar enough with UFC.
We don't take every question that, just so you guys know, like we don't take every question that comes in on the list. We go through them, and sometimes I ask Jonathan to pick out ones that'll be of more interest to our audience than others. So that's maybe why you get it might get skipped now and again, because we only have time, limited amount of time. We can't get through all the questions that come in, so we try to pick out the questions we think most of our audience will be most interested in. Volkanovski will retain his title. I listen, I believe you give him a rematch for the lightweight title, I believe he wins that fight. I believe that last fight they had went one more round. He knocks him out. Volkanovski is a beast. And even though he lost that fight, I think he's the number one pound for pound fighter in the world right now. That dude is a Tasmanian devil. And it's going to be great. Can't wait to watch it. But the next one, the next UFC is going to be the one we're all keeping our eyes on. All right, what's next?
From Bright Guy, have a feeling that Wanda will be the MCU's version of the Molecule Man for Secret Wars. She'll agree to help Kang because she thinks it's the right thing after being a villain for a while.
Okay, so that, well, in the newer rendition of the Secret Wars storyline in the comics, there's, this room, Spider-Man ends up giving him, I think, a leftover hamburger. Or was it a hamburger or a snack bar? I think it was like a leftover hamburger that he had in his pocket that leads to a whole bunch of stuff that then comes after that. That, you know what? I had not considered that, but that is definitely a possibility. However, it really does sound like right now Elizabeth Olsen has no immediate plans to come back to the MCU. Now look, she's never definitively said I'm never coming back. But she has spoken a number of times about, hey, if my run is done, I'm perfectly good. I've got other things I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't sound like one of those deflecting, what's the word I'm looking for? When somebody's trying to distract you.
Oh, well, I was going to say a distraction, but
we'll just use the word distraction. It doesn't sound like one of those misdirects. That's what I was looking for. It's not like one of those standard celebrity misdirects. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll be in it again. It legitimately sounds like she might be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if she is, that's perfectly fine. I think the story of Wanda Maximoff in the MCU, to me, has probably been the most interesting single character storyline in all of the MCU. And I really mean that. Not that she's my favorite character in the MCU, but when you follow her story from where she began in the cinematic universe to where she ended, it is one of the most interesting, multi-layered, like zigzag character arc and journey that we've seen. And I think she's been fantastic. And if that's the end of it, I'm fine with that. So that's why I have my doubts that she'll fill that role in Secret Wars, but it's a very interesting idea. All right, guys, with that down, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to our YouTube channel members for sending in those questions. Number one, because you gave us interesting things to talk about, not to mention that whole Emmy thing. And number two, by being a YouTube channel member, you support all the stuff that we do. So thank you guys so much for that support. Everybody, go off, enjoy your 4th of July if you're living here in the United States, and enjoy your day wherever you are in our world. I want to thank Ray Ora for being here, Jonathan Voico,
guys.
Chris Carr.
Bye, y'all.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.